Hey everyone, Janet here. I think it's time we addressed the elephant in the room about artificial intelligence, which is that a lot of people hate it. They hate the idea of it. They have feelings about it, and these take different forms and different shapes, but whichever way they come, they stop people embracing it in a way that is meaningful, and I think that's a great loss to them. This channel, as you know, is all about the intersection of artificial intelligence and our brilliant ADHD minds. And for that, I should say any kind of neuro-spicy, neuro-different thinking. I come at it from my ADHD perspective and the recognition of what my partnership with artificial intelligence has resulted in terms of extraordinary creativity and productivity. So I know you will have feelings about AI, and we will address some of those common barriers, misconceptions, and out-and-out myths about it. I have to say, everybody is always asking us to change our minds. I'm not going to ask you to change your mind. I am going to ask you, though, to open it up a little to a different way of thinking about AI and the possibilities that that might open to you. So let's start with taking a quick step back. I am no technical expert. I have been running a newsletter about artificial intelligence for 12 months, a weekly newsletter. So I've been immersed in that area, but I have never pretended that I am somebody who is deep in the technology wheelhouse. In fact, my whole concept behind the newsletter was making it understandable for other people. So I'm sure there will be critics out there who can point fingers at my explanation, maybe not being technologically spot on, but you know it works for me and hopefully it'll work for you. So I like to think about artificial intelligence not as one big brain, but as a collection of big brains. And these brains have been trained on vast oceans of data and information and knowledge. What kind of information? Well, pretty much anything you can think about that might have been digitized. Vast swathes of knowledge and research and reports, conversations, articles, news, coding, languages. Anything that has been digitized has the potential of being the fodder that feeds these different large language models. And of course, there are many of them with different sponsors, and they will have different learning pools, if you like. They will be learning from different sources. There will be duplication, but some of them will also be trained to be quite specialized in some areas. So for instance, if an AI tool is positioned as a legal support, it will have upweighted the amount of legal documentation that's gone into its training program. So they are like a bunch of big brains with different strengths and in some cases certain specialities. Now they're not only consuming data, they are learning to find patterns in that data, because that's how we learn. So if you imagine when you were learning, or your child is learning now, speak, that child will maybe see a picture of a dog and recognize that that is a dog. And after enough times of seeing the pattern that is the dog, with the ears and the nose and the tail and the tongue, your child will recognize that pattern and know now that that is a dog, and will take that learning forward. And AI does work in a similar way, but at colossal, massive scale. Of course, the patterns that AI is learning is understanding how we communicate, understanding how we think, how we solve problems, how mathematics works, how coding works, how things connect and are interconnected. So AI is literally taught to work like the human brain, with great stores of knowledge, and to activate that knowledge by the recognition of patterns. And of course, that's today's AI. It is continuing to get smarter, more thoughtful, more intuitive, and more predictive. We have this extraordinary resource, but people are resistant to it for many, many reasons, because they really don't trust it, or they don't feel good about it, or they feel it's unethical, or they feel it's cheating. So let's talk about some of those objections and take a quick look at how you could think about them a little differently. So let's start with trust. AI makes stuff up. It hallucinates. We've all heard those horror stories. The lawyer who put some made-up precedents into his brief. We've all heard those stories. And it does happen. Absolutely it happens. So what I say to you is, if you're in a business organization and you are working with your team and your head of research comes in and says, we have this insight and this is what I believe, I need you to believe this as well, you wouldn't just take it at face value. You would say, okay, this sounds interesting. Now explain more. Explain how you arrived at that outcome. Explain what your sources are. Explain what data and information you used. You would not take it at face value if you were a responsible manager. It's not micromanaging. It is validating the work. And you can do the same thing with AI. So I sometimes get very frustrated when I'm working with one of my favorite tools. Let's say it's Claude. And Claude 3.5 Sonnet is, to my mind, absolutely brilliant. I love it. But Claude can make stuff up. And we have these conversations. Is that case study real? Is that story you just told me about Jenny using AI and getting this degree of productivity, is it real? And often it will come back and say, no, sorry, anecdotally thought that would fit there. The way to negate this problem is to ask the question, is it real? And to ask for sources. Some AIs are better positioned than others. Some have access to real-time information and can serve you up the URL that's linked to the source. So always validate. And if you're not sure, then obviously you could actually find the source data and feed it in to AI and give it a specific data set to work with. Or you could use something like Perplexity, which is an AI search engine, which does a brilliant job of going out to find what's out there, aggregating it, giving you a synthesis of the information, and listing all the links and sources. So there are ways that you can absolutely avoid getting caught out by what we call hallucinations. Okay, what about the argument that it's all blah, meh, generic? Everybody knows you just get that AI template that comes out of ChatGPT. And again, the answer is true. You can. You can, if that's what you are prepared to accept, but it is not what you have to accept. So the way I work with Claude is iterative and intense. I will come up with the ideas. I will come up with the direction. Claude will get back to me with whatever I've instructed it to get back to me with. And often as not, I'll say, no, that just doesn't hit the spot. My knowledge, my experience, my intuition, my ADHD thinking knows when something is not what I want. Sometimes it takes me a while to find out what exactly it is that I want, but I will know when it's not. And so Claude and I, we bat stuff back and forth, we brainstorm, we break it down, we take bits of this and add them to bits of that, and it can be a very intensive process, so intensive that I am regularly running out of my word allocation for the day, which is very frustrating, and I have to switch to another AI. But the end result is something that is robust. I'll say original as much as anybody's work is original, but I am very happy with the quality of the outcome because it is really an articulation of my ideas, my thoughts, and my experience. So it can be generic if you are lazy. It's as simple as that. Or it can be as good as the inputs you contribute to it. What about authenticity? Is it authentic? Or am I cheating? Is there something that says because I am not writing every word and I am not framing every framework, am I cheating? Is that undervaluing me? Why would anybody think I have value if I can just get AI to do it? I'll come back to that second part in a minute about value, but let's talk about the cheating idea first. So when you read a book and you apply some of the lessons you learn from that book, does that feel like cheating? If you use an established framework, a McKinsey framework, to do a business analysis, does that feel like cheating? If you bring in an expert, or you have experts in your organization and you take their advice, does that feel like cheating? So no, you are not cheating. You are just working smartly with other team members that happen not to be human in this case. And there is the other thing. Is it because this is inhuman that it's inauthentic? No, because again, as we've said, it's about what you put in, how you shape it. I will not lie, I get frustrated with Claude. I keep saying, oh my God, you've gone all tech bro on me again. Because there is a certain style, there are tells to how AI talks. And when you work with it enough, you will see those tells and you will eradicate them. Because yeah, there is definitely a tendency for, cheesy terms of phrase and overused cliches. And as I say, tech bro talk. So no, it isn't inauthentic and it's not cheating. So back to that second point about value recognition. Well, if AI can do all of this, why on earth should I be valued? And that comes back to the fundamental thought. You are still doing the work. You are inputting the ideas. You are overseeing the team to get to the outputs that are required. And therein is, again, the important thing. It really shouldn't be about the process, but about the quality of the output and the impact that has in the real world. And you are still responsible for that. I did a video quite recently about AI as the GPS for an ADHD brain. The point I made is that you're choosing the destination, you're driving the car, and AI is really just helping navigate you along the way. And I think that's a healthy way to put it in perspective. It is not doing your job. It is helping you do your job to the highest level you can. And finally, let's talk about ethics. Ethics covers a whole range of issues, from really fundamental ones like privacy, plagiarism, using information that is unauthorized, all of those ethical considerations that are baked into the model itself. And then, of course, there is, by supporting this technology, is somebody going to lose a job? Am I helping the technology take over human roles? And there's any other number of ethical issues. So on the first count, I will say, make sure that both the LLMs, the models that you choose to use, have a strong ethics code articulated. And again, I go back to Claude, which is an anthropic tool. It actually has its own Bill of Rights. It has its own constitution. It really does position itself as an ethical tool in this space. But everyone have their own policy. You need to look at that policy and make sure it's aligned with your values. And also make sure your company has a policy that is aligned to how you feel is appropriate to use and apply this team of big brains to your work. And what about the other issue? By supporting this technology, I may be helping it replace human workers. Well, that's been the role of technology since the beginning of technological revolutions. It changes the way we do things. It will be replacing jobs. It will be creating new jobs. Most of what it will be doing will be transforming jobs. And so you must be at the forefront of that transformation in order to shape how this technological revolution will actually unfold over time. So when I said at the top of this video that I would ask you not to change your mind, but to open your mind, the idea I'm asking you to open your mind to is that AI is the most incredible asset that we can imagine. Oh my goodness, the days of the old Encyclopedia Britannica up there on the top shelf in the school library because they were so valuable, so expensive, and so precious. All of the knowledge of the world in these books, all of the knowledge that the editors had decided should be in these books. And the salesman coming around door to door selling this precious knowledge on these payment plans because it was so expensive, but the value of it was incalculable. That was it. It was like having a library at your fingertips. Well, imagine now Encyclopedia Britannica on steroids and some, and instantly accessible to you by just talking to it. So give AI a chance, and we'll talk more in an upcoming video about how you really do integrate it into your life to make a difference. Speak soon.
Gotta be me in the light of the dark with the fire inside.